Welcome to Coleridge Sporting Clays. We hope you come here and have a blast, but we want you to do it safely. Therefore, we have a number of safety rules that you have to follow. We have a couple written pages that we want you to read. If you have questions about them, stop and ask somebody. Ask one of the managers, ask one of the owners, but make sure you understand the rules. You'll have to execute the safety list indicating that you have read them and you have understood them. They're very comprehensive, but I'm going to highlight a couple today. First thing I want to talk about is eye safety and hearing safety. You're required to have some sort of eye protection when you're shooting. You can bring your own, or we will lend you some safety glasses to use. We ask that you return them when you're finished shooting. The other issue I want to talk to you about is hearing protection. You can bring your own hearing protection, and if you don't have your own, we will have hearing plugs that will let you have them. You can keep them. We don't want them back once you've used them, and you can reduce the noise level from about 120 decibels down to about 80 decibels, which our audiologist tells us is safe. If you wear both the plugs and the earmuffs, it'll reduce it maybe another 10 decibels down to about 70. So it's your option, but you must wear some sort of hearing protection. The next item I want to talk to you about is gun safety. It's very, very important. Most guns, or a lot of the guns at least, are double guns. This is an over and under. It's an upper barrel and a lower barrel. They also have a side-by-side shotgun. These guns are good and they're safe because when you're not using them, they need to be broken open. They have to be in an open position like this. Obviously can't fire. The first thing anytime that you pick up a gun you must do is to look and make sure it's empty. Even if someone else tells you it's empty, they set it in a rack, double check, look at it, make sure it's empty. The other type of gun I want to talk to you about is a semi-automatic gun. They make some very good semi-automatic guns. Benelli especially makes some very good ones. The only concern I have with these, they're a little bit harder to know when they're unloaded. The chamber itself needs to be kept open, and it has to be visible so everybody can see it. So if this gun, if you're carrying it, you can just have it over your shoulder so everyone can see that open chamber and there's no shell in there, and therefore they know it's unloaded and safe. So carrying the double gun, there's a couple ways you can carry it to make sure it's very safe. One is just to leave it over your arm, let it point to the ground. Another is to carry it over your shoulder. You can have it right over the back, holding onto the barrel. When it's broken and you have it over your shoulder and you put it on the wrong way, like this, it's still safe, but anybody walking behind you just might feel a little disconcerted seeing those double barrels maybe pointed towards them. So anyway, be safe, keep the guns unloaded. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the shells themselves. It's extremely important that you use the proper ammunition for the gun you're using. The gun I just picked up was a 12 gauge. You have to make sure you use 12 gauge shells in a 12 gauge shotgun. That sounds like very elementary, and it is, but what will fit in this gun is not just a 12 gauge shell, but a 20 gauge might go in there. If you use the wrong shells, it may even fire, but it could potentially lodge in the barrels themselves, and if you shoot again, it could cause a very bad reaction and very sincere safety issue. So in that regard, when you're taking this 12 gauge shotgun, you make sure you have 12 gauge shells. And as an extra precaution, what we have here is a rule at Coleridge Sporting Clays that if you're using a 12 gauge gun, you only have in your possession, while you're out on the course, 12 gauge ammunition. Similarly, if you're using a 20 gauge or a 28 gauge or even a 16 gauge, you have only the appropriate ammunition for that gun that you're using. As far as loading guns, you only load a gun when you're in a shooting stand ready to shoot, and I'm going to go through that in just a second and explain the shooting window. But it's very important everybody knows that only one gun is loaded per station, and that's only when you're through the window. All right, every shooting station at Coleridge has a shooting window. The shooting window is the area where any shot at all will be taken. If you're not shooting out that window, you're not to be shooting at Coleridge. So from the top of the rail to the beam across the top, it's 50 inches. Your actual window is 48 by 50. When you approach the window, your gun should be unloaded. It's very important. Some individuals will come up and it's very natural. You want to take the shells and you're going to load it right here before you put it in the window. That is incorrect. The gun has to go through the window. You load your gun. Be ready to fire. You can call for the targets, shoot, and then open the gun. When you're finished shooting, you make sure the gun's unloaded before it comes back out of the window. So once again, the gun goes into the window unloaded and it comes back out of the window unloaded. This is critical. If everybody follows this rule, here at Cool Ridge Sporting Clays, the chance of there being a gun accident are almost completely eliminated. So again, this is a requirement that we have to follow. The last thing I really want to talk about is the golf carts. We spend a lot of money on these golf carts and we want them to be taken care of. You're responsible for them. We only want you to use them in low range because they go very, very fast. They're electric carts. They'll go about 13 miles an hour in low range. They go about 23 in high range. There's no reason to be in high range. So keep them there, keep them safe. If you want to bring your own side-by-side or ATV, you're welcome to do that. But we want you to stay on the golf cart paths and make certain that you don't go off, don't go tearing up the gravel, tearing up the landscaping. You have to follow the rules just like you do anywhere else. We want you to come here, we want you to have a blast, but we want you to do it safely.